Welcome to the Peace Talk, sir.
Thank you very much. And greetings to everyone down there watching this very important program. I am so much delighted to be on the show, and I'm hoping we'll have a very fruitful discussion and as well hear from your responses too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Jarju, welcome to the Peace Talk, sir.
Thank you very much, Justice, for the invitation.
Okay, thank you.
And it's wholeheartedly accepted. And we hope, looking forward to quite a very fruitful discussion. And of course, extending greetings to all the viewers out there.
Thank you very much. Dear viewers, you will bear with me that today is also going to be another great day in the history of the Peace Talk Show, because we have youths here who are here to discuss on a very important topic, that is youth's participation in ensuring peaceful election. As this country approaches election left, right, up and down, it's high time we discuss on issues surrounding peace. Especially when we talk about peace or violence, youths are always, in the forefront. So today it is very important to have people who are tasked to spearhead some institutions which are responsible of steering the affairs of the youths. So Mr. Cham, coming to you first, what is NYP doing, National Youth Parliament doing, to ensure that the 2021 election, in fact from 2021 to 2023 election, are peaceful both before election, during election and after elections?
Thank you very much, Justice, for a wonderful question. I believe it's definitely an exciting start for me. So first of all, maybe for the sake of the people that do not know, much about the National Youth Parliament, it's basically a non-profit, non-partisan youth organization that's been set up to represent the voice of young people, and this has been, spread through different set of programs. So in summary, what the National Youth Parliament actually does in terms of the issue of election is wide. It actually ranges from the holding of campaigns around the country to promote young people participation in election, and this actually has been happening for quite a lot of years. And this year basically it actually came through campaign to promote young people to to take part in the voter registration, so that they will not lose their right to actually vote. And aside that, there are plans ahead to actually conduct a voter education exercise, which is going to take place across the country. And what the NYP actually intends to do is to go down there and promote people, young people, to actually come on board and take part in the elections. On top of that, inform them why they need to take part in the elections. Why is it important to vote? How do you vote? And also remind of their responsibility to ensure that they're going to be peaceful and responsible electoral participation. And when we talk about peaceful and responsible electoral participation, we're talking about you taking up the mandate of ensuring that you take part in the elections and only stop at that. For example, do not take part in the elections through the issuance of hate speech or deplorable remarks intended to another party. So the main role or function that the NYP is actually playing in terms of promoting peaceful election is actually awareness creation and as well a campaign against hate speech, for example. And there are actually some activities that are on the pipeline, even though a few have been conducted, but there's some on the pipeline that are intended to actually fight against hate speech and also certain deplorable remarks that could be intended. And also we do online and social media campaigns to ensure that young people are at the forefront in terms of building peace and ensuring there's responsible electoral participation. Recently we launched a program on Twitter. It's called Jotai Ndawi, where we discuss youth matters. And one of the themes that we are about to bring on board as well is a talk on peace and how young people can actually promote peace. And it's going to be staged on the Jotai Ndawi. So it's like a lot of activities that will come on board. NYC itself, we've partnered in some, and we'll continue to partner. So one of the other reasons why I was so excited to be here is the fact that I'll be sitting, with my very boss, someone who has served as a father to the young people. And then, of course, this program is going to help, in fact, in fostering further that relationship.
That is wonderful. That is wonderful. Precisely, I'm glad that NYP is doing. But let me come to Yes, Executive Director of National Youth Council. What is the level of preparation also? Because when you talk about National Youth Council, is the parent body, and all these sub-associations and organizations are under. So what is the level of preparation, and how are you also grooming your children?
Thank you very much, Justice, for that question. And I think Honorable Speaker gave a very good overview in terms of what institutions are doing, and basically all of them being members of the National Youth Council, but of course, working closely with the council to deliver for our young people. As you said, as a council, we are established in the year 2000 by an act of the National Assembly. So we are a state institution subvented by the government under the Ministry of Youth and Sports. And part of our role includes registering youth organizations, and that is why the National Youth Parliament is a member of the NYC. But also, most importantly, enhance youth participation in national development. So basically what we've been doing over the past years in terms of ensuring we have quite a very peaceful electoral process, throughout the whole cycle, but of course ensuring young people meaningfully participate. We have had several activities in the past years. I think one most important that we started with was the forming of an inter-party youth committee in 2008. This we did at Kairaba, and we were able to bring together all the political parties and so they do not only have youth structures, but they have quite very, very vibrant youth structures that are going to be quite active. It's important young people understand the essence of peace. You look at this country, the majority of the population is young people. But two, in terms of the manpower, they have the manpower and the physique, and if you look at the history of electoral violence all over, even though it might be engineered by people who are not young, but the foot soldiers will always be, the young people out there. They are going to be the perpetrators, and equally they are going to be the victims. So learning from these lessons, we thought it was important we bring our young people together to understand that an electoral cycle is part and parcel of a democracy. And it should not, and by no means should it bring enmity, amongst ourselves to the level, of violence. We all have a right, to present ourselves as candidates. We have a right to vote. Let's exercise that peacefully. But once it is over, our responsibility is national development, and this should be our focus.
That's precisely fine. But currently, what projects do you have in hand, which that you are working on towards to ensure that the election is free, fair, and violent?
I think this was already passed. But currently, as we speak for now, when the voter registration was on, we went out. Went out, throughout the length and breadth of the country, and this we did together with the National Youth Parliament to encourage young people to come out and vote, because this is where the process starts from. Registering and having a voter's card and having the right to, to vote. We thought in the past young people were quite reluctant to registering, so we went out, and we are happy with the preliminary data that we are having. That quite a large numbers of young people have registered. I think which goes to show that the campaign that we did was quite useful. Just recently, we organized another musical caravan. This was with the support of one of our partners, CAS, Conrad, which is a German political foundation. And we went out. That registration is over. We are now back, to ensure that we promote, a peaceful process, during, before, during, and even after elections. This we did in a caravan. We also did a song with one of the Gambia's artists. It's a group called the Nobles, and the song is on radio, and a video will soon be out, and we want to ensure we keep playing, because music is, one avenue where young people easily get, the message, and we think we are able to attract them, with those music that we will be having online. But we continue to organize dialogues, and with very many other programs that we will be having. By next week, we are organizing a TOT. in terms of a training of trainers workshop. That is in terms of enhancing, young people's meaningful participation in the political process. This is funded by the African Union together with the, AGA, which is the African Governance Architecture. They will be in Banjul next week. We are organizing a TOT, hope to get young people trained, and we expect that they'll be ambassadors and they can go back, to train some other young people just to promote young people's meaningful participation in politics. And this involves not only getting them to vote, but also partaking in the whole process, ensuring peace prevails throughout. So this training is coming up next week.
I will come to you, Mr. Jarju. But in the meantime, Honorable Speaker, how are you working with institutions like, IEC, GPF, Gambia Police Force, UNDP, and other civil society organizations to ensure that the election is free, fair, and transparent?
Thank you very much. The institutions you've mentioned, aside the National Youth Council, of course, are part of the key partners as far as our work is concerned, even beyond the elections. For example, the Independent Electoral Commission, when we're implementing on the project, we make sure that we liaise with them to ensure there is uniformity in terms of the message that we're going to send, to make sure that whatever that we're going to share there, especially in terms of some of the requirements to get you qualified to vote, actually intact with the electoral laws. And that is why we're able to be sure that you needed to have your national ID card or your passport or your birth certificate, or in a case you're going to have any of those, an attestation from the chief. That is just one part. When you go into elections too, and you're supposed to do election observation, the IEC must give you accreditation first in order for you to be qualified as an observer. And this is as well something that has been achieved before, whereas the IEC would give us accreditation cards in order to qualify as observers. And then on top of that, this year too, the same thing is going to happen. The other partner you mentioned, that's UNDP, they're basically one of the key funders as far as civil society is concerned, especially in terms of the election. The voter registration exercise that we conducted with NYC, they were the ones that funded it through the UN Peace Building Fund. Yes. So any organization, or stakeholder that we believe hold a key a key position in terms of the development of young people, and as well in the promotion of peace or in the promotion of peaceful elections, we make sure that we're able to hold on to that partnership and foster a good relationship, because the more we come together to implement activities, the better it's going to yield results. And that has actually been creating a lot of impact. That
is wonderful. During campaign, or should I say, during voter registration, you were having a lot of projects. Voter sensitization. But currently, do you have any other project currently that you are running to ensure that there is robust sensitization, to ensure that people are adequately informed after this voter registration process? Yes,
we basically have 2 projects on the way, which are basically on voter education. But for the fact that we are in agreements or partnership stage, like the process on, I may not want to I may not want to mention the name of the partner and how far we've gone. But once everything is finalized, it will come to light.
That's fine. And Mr. Jarju, how are you working with NYP to ensure proper and adequate youth education and inclusion in constructive matters of national concern? Because we've seen that even though you have been working, but all of the time then there will be some kind of assaults, or as he rightly said, a lot of disparaging remarks on social media sometimes. So how are you working with them to ensure that these hate speeches are adequately addressed?
Yeah, thank you. Maybe before that one, let me just also highlight the fact that as a council, we also work quite closely with the IEC. In fact, we represent young people at that level. They have an elections project funded by the UNDP, and as a council, we sit both in the steering committee and, of course, at technical committee level. We sit in both those committees, bringing in the youth input or the youth perspective, towards the upcoming election. So we've been quite a close partner. Again, with the police in terms of security, we have plans, afoot to also organize some regional dialogues between the security and the young people, just to ensure we are able to really have that cordial working relationship between the young people and the police. And we do not see each other as enemies, but basically as partners, that whose intention is basically, ensuring peace and security prevails. And we are available where the police are not. So we should be able to at least serve as a liaison, providing the police or the security with information, early warning, just to ensure that they able to get the information as soon as possible. So we are working quite closely with all these partners. In terms of our youth organizations, including the NYP, we continue to work quite closely with them. Organizing trainings, the current training that we'll be having on Monday, the NYP will be participating in that training, ensuring how young people participate meaningfully in the political process, which of course will have to include, the maintenance of peace. And we cannot do that without talking about the threat, that the social media poses. The way we use, the social media going out there to campaign. I can remember a year or two back we organized a training for young people in terms of how to positively use the social media to sell their agenda and of course to campaign, and not to use it the other way around, which is using it negatively and sending out comments or hate speech that are really not desirable, as we've been known, to be quite a country where young people, really respect, the establishments, that we have. So we'll continue working with them, organizing such forums, be it nationally, even in the regions, or even going quite down the districts. We intend to continue working with them in all the projects that we have. Our intention is to work with all these structures, including the parliament, to be able to really implement these activities and ensure young people realize there is a lot of good that we can gain through the use of social media, and not to use it the other way around. That is character assassination or bullying each other on social media. It doesn't take us anywhere.
As a council, how do you feel sometimes when you see young people becoming soldiers, foot soldiers on social media, trying to character assassinate young soldiers, young youths, being dragged to police for burglary or attacks, how do you feel?
It's quite unfortunate that some of these things are happening, and we want to call on every other young person to ensure the country is governed by the rule of law, and it's important, however aggrieved we are, to really follow, the dictates of the rule of law, and to really avoid, however frustrated we are, taking the law into our own hands. It cannot be in any way justified taking the law into your own hand. However you are aggrieved, you cannot justify taking the law into your own hands. So the best thing is, is to follow, due process, however slow or fast it might be. It's important we follow due process, but sometimes is quite not pleasing, to really see, our own folk or our own young people, going out there using the social media for quite very negative vices. Our advice will always be, it's a very good platform, quite useful. Let's use it the right way and avoid abusing it.
That's wonderful. We are on campaigns, across the length and breadth of the country. But still now, in fact, some of these places that you went to are places that, where, some threats of violence or some kind of, disparaging remarks come from. How disappointed do you go, or how resilient are you trying to ensure that even though no matter how these things comes, you always try to reinforce your energy?
Thank you very much. I believe it's our responsibility as youth leaders to basically do all we can to ensure that we are all on the same wavelength in terms of our commitment and understanding of building peace and as well as promoting tolerance and diversity. So obviously, if you actually part of the leaders, and even if you're not, as a responsible youth, when something like that happens, it means you actually going to feel, very disappointed to some, to a very large extent. But at the end of the day, what is also important is for us to note that when it comes to peace building, it is not, a one-off, process. It's actually a continuous and systematic process that requires stage-by-stage engagements. And sometimes you realize that when you go countrywide on our activities, you will not be able to reach entirely, the entire population of the country. That is why usually analyses are, normally made, and then, some of the spots are actually selected. The good news, however, is that especially recently, organizations are actually, beginning to to give a much more decentralized approach in terms of the activities. For example, in the last project we implemented, of course, with the National Council and the other civil society organizations, we identified very hard to reach communities because these are the people that usually when programs happen they don't reach to them. To make sure that they're very much educated and their awareness are really built around these areas. And some of the responses we get from them are very surprising. It's not basically that because they're in hard to reach places they don't want to take part in development. These are people that are really willing to take part in it. But people have to come and bring these services to them and make them understand that they are as important as any other person that is living in Combo.
In fact, that was a question that I have for you. How do you ensure that you reach to youths in the provincial areas? Because some of these places are hard to reach areas, and people may not bother themselves to go there.
Yeah, exactly. So for us, we've taken it upon ourselves to really go there. And that is why identifications were made to ensure that we reach there and we reach the people that are living there because they're equally important. You understand that when it's time for elections, no matter how hard to reach these places are, the politicians will still find
the ballot will reach there.
Exactly, the ballot will reach there, right? So it's only fair enough that after the elections, that the politicians are able to reach there too. Regardless of what happens from their side, for us as youth leaders, we have to ensure that we reach there. And currently, as you may be aware, the NYP is actually doing a reformation. And the reformation, one of the key areas is ensuring that every constituency is adequately represented in every matter that has to do with young people. And the NYC itself has been supporting very well in guidance in terms of the reformation process. And we have gone very far, and I'm sure in a few weeks, you'll hear an announcement for the validation. And that will be, a breath of fresh air as far as the young people will be.
Seriously. And let me come to Mr. Jarju. Mr. Jarju, NYC, as I told you in the beginning, that is the parent body. How do you ensure that the political parties and the politicians are well engaged, not in partisan manner, but in a very constructive manner to ensure that they don't use youths as a tool for instigating or perpetrating violence and crimes?
Yeah, I think we've been quite closely in touch with all political parties over the past years. And one thing we have kept doing is inviting them to our events. If you attend a lot of NYC events, you realize that always political parties are highly represented, in the events that we do. The leadership doesn't come, but they send in representatives to those meetings, and we are quite hopeful that the representatives do provide feedback, to the leadership that sent them, to come and attend those meetings. And one message we keep sending is the fact that Gambia should be first, in whatever we do. And when we see Gambia first, it's obvious. In no circumstance will we promote, violence which can lead to the destruction of the very country that you are looking for. And I'm not sure any politician wants to take over a country in ruins. Taking over a country in ruins and having to start, development all over, almost, retarding 50 years back and having to start again. I'm not sure any of them has some of those intentions. But notwithstanding, we keep sending those communications when we have those trainings. That is quite important that as politicians we preach the message of peace. One thing is obvious, all of them have a large followership, and young people listen, to them. And this is one thing they need to know, and it's obvious that they need to guard, some of the utterances that they make, because whatever they say, there is someone else listening, and he's only waiting to be told do, and be obvious. Whatever you say, one or two people will certainly, put it into practice. So these are communications we keep sending that we know as politicians they are quite responsible, elders or citizens of this country. But it's important we keep reminding each other that we have large followerships as politicians, and it's important to guard, whatever statements we are making. That whatever we say should be for the good, of this country, and whatever we ask our young people to do should definitely be for the good of the country, and by extension, the good of those very young people. What they wouldn't ask, their children or close relatives to do, we do not expect them, by extension, to ask, the followership behind them, who are young people, to go out to do the same thing. So we keep sending the message, one-on-one, out of, formal settings. We do have meetings with some of them, and these are concerns we raise. And assurances have been given by all of them that certainly, they will conduct quite a peaceful, electoral process, and of course a whole cycle. And they are obvious that at the end of the day, the peace that we have been known for as a country will certainly prevail. For some of them that we have spoken to, behind, the corridors or behind the curtains, these assurances have been quite given. And, I'm quite assured that they are not just saying it for the sake of it, but, they are quite committed to it. And we are hopeful that even where their followers, go astray, they should be able to call them back to order as politicians, because certainly they listen to them.
That's wonderful. That's one, because it's always a concern that you see politicians speaking peaceful, but their sympathizers or the followers become so violent, and this sometimes jeopardizes the name of the political party. So I think it's high time the sensitization to go on, and politicians or political parties to distance themselves from any individual who make a disparaging remarks which is trying to character assassinate or destroy the good reputation of the political party. Coming to Mr. Champion, as you said, the NYP is on reformation, but currently, what are your greatest challenges that you face?
Our greatest challenge. Okay, before I get to that, I'd like to add a point.
Okay, that's fine.
What executive that I was talking about regarding the political parties. I believe most of the time, political party leaders are not responsible for some of the utterances that are made.
Okay.
However, the moment you are a leader of a political party, it means anything that the sympathizers are saying, most of the time they're doing it in order to impress you, even if they're doing it wrongly. Sometimes they may not even know.
Exactly.
So it's your responsibility as a political party leader to actually do all you can to correct that, either publicly or privately, to ensure that it doesn't continue to happen. But we cannot afford to have a political system where the political party leaders will sit and the sympathizers will say anything they want to say, and then they will fold their hands and say that I never ordered them to do so, or actually have no hand in what they're doing. So,
or is their individual position? They're not speaking in
on behalf of the
party. So I think those are unfortunate.
Yes. I think it's something that
I think in fact as concerned people, when we are talking about national development, you and me, before we become better friends, tell me the truth and tell me the truth. That when you do something that is not correct, I tell you, my brother, what you've done is not. And I think that is even in line with the teachings of the Quran, as far as most of us here are Muslims. Yeah. So what are the problems that greatest problem that NYP is facing? Which you think that's supposed to be
the greatest problem, like you would say anywhere right now, is the financial challenge. I think that it will not come as a surprise to anybody, because it's not NYP is not like a body that was created by an act of parliament, for example, whereas you receive subventions or where you are a sort of funding. You understand? So that actually brings a little bit of challenge in terms of finance. There are certain things you want to do, you cannot do them, and sometimes there are things you want to do, but you're not able to do them the way you wanted to do them because of the financial challenges. The other challenge, I think all of the other challenges are connected to the financial challenge. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but we are thankful. I think there's been a lot of progress so far, and the reformation process has gone very far. That once we are done, we believe we'll be able to to actually tackle that financial challenge.
I hope to see that the day that NYP will come on board, and it will be served as a complement to the national parliament also as well. I think that will be fine. Where you have young people, sitting also comfortable in the parliament, discussing about issues regarding their generation.
Yeah, sure.
Because it's very important.
No, I think it's quite important, and that is why, as a council, we are really committed. To supporting the youth parliament, in its transformation process, just to ensure, there is that vibrancy, in the youth parliament. And at some point, you're going to realize that it only reinforces our position as a council, that certain things we want to do directly, we wouldn't even have to do, but we can easily rely on them to provide us some of those information and data, which will be quite useful, for us as a council. So the stronger they are as youth organizations, the stronger we are, as a council. And that's why we are quite committed, to the process.
That's wonderful. And I hope that you will reinforce your support as from today also, to energize or re-energize yourself again.
No, sure, we will. We will definitely. We are quite committed.
That's wonderful. But also, NYC also, may have your own challenges. You also have your challenges,
No, sure. As a government institution, we have equally our own challenges. As you know, this country is a tax-based, economy, and you receive subventions on a monthly basis, and certainly this depends on how much funds government generates, and this is what is subvented back to institutions. Quite happily, we are happy to inform that over the past years, actually our portfolio have increased significantly. But dealing with these countries, the majority of this country's population, resources will never be enough. And I think we continue. Though as I said, we recognize the fact that our budget have improved over 100% fold. Over the past years up to 2021, our allocation have increased 100% fold. But notwithstanding, it still cannot address all that we want to do as a council. Our initial other challenge was in terms of recognition, but I think this is one thing we have been able to address over the past years, that institutions go out there working with young people without the National Youth Council, or just going out and representing, or saying they're working with young people and just identifying anyone they feel like identifying to work with them without going through the established channels of communication. And I think this has been one challenge. But over the past years, we have seen institutions improving, especially government institutions. Whenever they want to work with young people, I think the point of call, has always been the council. And I think we are happy that we've been able to work with them and really address, that concern. That in the past, most of them will want to go work with young people, but without the council. But I think with a lot of advocacy, this has really improved. That before they go to the field, I think the first point of call has always been the council. Be able to work with them, identify who they work with. If they're going to any region, we have our regional youth committees, and they become the entry points. If they're going to the districts, we have our district youth committees, and they've been able to use those structures that we have as entry points. So I think along the line, I think there have been great improvements in terms of.
As a visionary leader, what do you think could be solutions to these problems?
I think in terms of solution, for the problem of recognition, I think this has been worked out. One thing we did not wait to be invited. Wherever we thought we should be, we pushed our way, to ensure we are giving the seat on the table, during those discussions. And we have continued doing that. I think the other solutions will have to be, whenever we are doing projects or proposals for young people, it's important that from the onset, you have young people part and parcel of these processes. But when we draft them in at the end for validation, you then get quite the input, or whatever that you needed to get from them. So it's important that whatever we do for young people, we go out to them, ask, for what they want, ask for how they want it, and then, this should be what we are able to put in our blueprints, that we will have. And to be honest, I think great improvements have been made, and I think there is still room, for more improvement in terms of our government partners, in terms of our international partners that we have, and of course in terms of the NGOs, to ensure whatever we are doing for young people and on behalf of the young people, let it be from them, that they're asking that this is what we want. And when you do that, it's quite accepted, and the tendency for it to fail will be very minimal, because you're giving them exactly what they've asked for. So I think, going forward, I think it's important we begin to think in that dimension, that whatever we want to do for them, let's not think for them. Let's ensure we go back, work with them right from the beginning. Beginning to really assess what they want, and how they want it, and where they want it. If we work on these things, I'm sure a lot of the challenges that we have will soon be.
Will soon face up. And coming to the Honorable Speaker, we are glad that the Speaker of the National Parliament is a lady, but the Speaker of the Youth Parliament is a man.
And the Speaker of the Children's National Assembly is a
yes, it's a female.
Ladies are gradually taking over this country, but our champion is always there.
But it's great.
What do you think could be the solutions to the problems that NYP is facing? And what challenges are you going to pose today, even to the able ED, executive director, which he's supposed to push, and all the stakeholders also, because National Youth Parliament is something that's supposed to stand firm.
Definitely. Yeah. So when it comes to what could be done to actually put these challenges off? I think most of the solutions that should come on board will be external, because one thing that we were successful in doing was, making sure there's a reinforcement of passion into the National Youth Parliament, starting from the executive. We make sure that everyone is committed and is up to task to make sure that the work is done. So the moment you're able to have that commitment, it means everything that comes on top of that will make things way easier. So when it comes to the financial area, which is our main challenge, of course, all that we can do is to call on the partners and the donors to come on board and support the National Youth Parliament, because it's basically a platform that will represent young people from Carton to Koina. Wherever you want to reach, you're able to reach them, and we have very vibrant structure, including regional structures. So for the NYC, all we can say, we need more. Right? They've really done very well so far, because since when we came into authority, the first thing we did was to pay them a courtesy call, and we discussed our vision and mission, and some of the things that we aspire to achieve as far as National Youth Parliament is concerned. And they've always given it a very huge commitment. And we feel much more involved now as far as activities are concerned. But like I would just reference what the ED said, dealing with young people who form the largest part of the population is always very difficult to have the adequate resources. So we also say to the NYC, it's very difficult to have the adequate resources to do these things. So we always need more. And definitely.
That is wonderful. Just disappointingly that the time has gone. In fact, it's after 12, and today we're sorry that we may not open lines because time has gone. We have two very focal persons here. In fact, they are youth leaders who join us to discuss on a very important topic, and the time is after 12, and the program is supposed to be 1 hour. So we apologize that we may not call, but next time, or you can also text the number and give your suggestions and ideas. These are people that I'm working closely with, and I will also forward your suggestions and questions to them. And for sure, and certainly, they are very open-minded people. They will answer or address your questions. But coming to the closing, Mr. Honorable Cham, what special message do you have for the youths?
Thank you very much. I'm also very delighted to have been, part of the program, and like I said, to sit side by side with the executive director. So what I would say to the young people, the special message I have for you is to remind you that you are the most important category as far as age is concerned in terms of our national development. And this is basically not just because you form majority of the population, but because majority of the things that are done in advancement of the country, young people are actually the stronger force in terms of work, in terms of intellect, in terms of the ability to actually analyze and bring in positive thinking. So do not relent on your efforts. Make sure you always in there where you deserve to be. Get to the table that belongs to you, even if you're not invited. And make sure that your voice is recognized. And always knock on the doors of the National Youth Parliament and the National Youth Council, in fact, because at the end of the day, it's because of your people that we are there. Most importantly, get your voter's card and get prepared for the elections. Prevent yourself from being involved in hate speech or using deplorable language against anybody. Take part in the campaigns if you belong to a political party or if you support a candidate, but make sure you do it very reasonably and very responsibly. On top of that, on the 4th December, come out and vote and go back home and wait for the election results. Once they're announced, you actually accept, if you have been defeated, that it is the decision of the people. The Gambians have decided. If you win, celebrate and celebrate responsibly as well. And understand that politics is temporal in terms of elections. Elections will come and go, but the Gambia will forever remain. And the young people of this country must not take any step or chance to be involved in things that are going to lead to their destroy or to actually destroy this country. So that is the message I have for you, and I thank you all very well for believing in
When
yourself.
champion speaks, he speaks wisdom.
Sure.
So there's no doubt to that, and people are surprised,
Sure.
And the able executive director, your message is going to cut across from the youth, the political parties, parents, civil society organizations, and national organizations. What message do you have for them in order to reinforce their activities towards a more peaceful election?
Yeah, I think the message will always be the same. All of us need to just realize that whatever we do, it's for the Gambia. And if every other stakeholder has this at the back of their minds, that the Gambia is first, before any other thing. I think, this is one way of moving this country to the next level very soon. All of us will have to be quite nationalistic and patriotic, and whatever we do should be for the greater good of the country and not for us as individuals. Once this becomes the bedrock for all of us, I think it makes development quite easier and rapid for all of us. If you learn from most of these countries that you have in Asia that we call the Asian tigers, if you learn from them, it has been commitment and being quite nationalistic that has gotten them, within a span of 50 to 70 years. You can see how much they have leapfrogged from 70 years ago where they were, to where they are today. You can see quite the gap. And one key thing that they will all tell you is the fact that they saw country first, and they were quite nationalistic and sacrificed for their country. And that is why within a 50-year period, within a 70-year period, these countries have moved on quite rapidly, that they've become the envy, of all of us. And I think equally we can do if we follow from these footsteps, that they have. So for me, cutting across everyone, it's let's be quite patriotic, and loving our country. I think this is the bedrock. Once this is embedded in all of us, and of course by extension, we preach, the same thing to our children, to our peers, our comrades, our militants. Let's preach the same thing. We are hopeful, within quite a short period of time, we should be able to see the Gambia at the next level.
Thank you very much. You say let's be patriotic. I will tell you let's be patriotic, let's be nationalistic, and let's be optimistic. And thank you very much. That is the Executive Director of NYC, and also Honorable Speaker Omar Cham, the Speaker of National Youth Parliament. Today they join us live online here to discuss on youth participation in ensuring peaceful election. And there is no doubt that they have discussed on this theme adequately and sufficiently. In fact, that's why today we could not, open the lines. I'm sure any youth who have access to this, video or this, this show, actually this is going to serve as a life-changing, moment for you, because they have done justice to the topic. And there is no doubt we put them at where they are, and they are serving us. So that's why they have this message for you. The message is a very rare message. Let's utilize their messages. It's a wisdom. Please, as they said, let's see the Gambia, because when Gambia is put into pieces, we the youths will leave this country to go and serve as refugees in other countries. And we have seen how others are feeling. We have seen if you are innocent or you are a victim, once you are a youth, you are a victim, because once you want to cross your border to go to other countries, when your country is not in peace, you are first eye-marked, and as a result, you may be taken to a place that is undesirable. So we, the youth, should ensure and make sure that not even an opportunity or fraction of any opportunity to be given for this country to be, put into pieces. We own this country, and let's work towards the greater development of this country. As we always say, for the Gambia, our homeland. So we are grateful, Mr. Cham, Honorable Cham, sorry for that, and Mr. Jarju. Thank you very much for joining us, and we shall continue working, inshallah, by the grace of God. And never hesitate to invite the Peace Talk Show or Fado Network. We are always available. And we are saying thank you to our viewers and the able technicians here and all the followers of the Peace Talk Show. You can continue texting us, and all the messages that you have, I will share with them, inshallah. God bless you, and see you next Friday. We apologize that Prof. Lumumba should be here live online today, but unfortunately he had a schedule. So it is scheduled for next Thursday, and inshallah we'll have Prof. Lumumba to discuss on a very important topic. And in advance, you are all welcomed, and a formal invitation will be sent to NYP and NYC.
Sure.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you.